The way you rate anime is wrong. Or to be more precise, the way you talk about how you rate anime is wrong. Allow me to explain. When I say that Code Geass is a 7 out of 10, what is the first thought that comes to your head? For many, you will assert that I have rated the show too low, and incidentally, you will assume that I think negatively about Code Geass. In a certain respect, you're right. I think less of Code Geass than your average anime fan. However, the fact of the matter is that I think Code Geass is a great show. This is precisely what I mean by 7 out of 10. It's good, but not amazing. The problem, however, is, for you, 7 means less than good. Because of our conflicting ideas of 7-ness, you assume I think poorly of Code Geass when, in reality, I think positively of it. The issue lies in the number-scale model of evaluation we use to communicate our thoughts. For many, a number-based ranking system is useful in that it allows us to quantify how much we like each series in relation to others. The purpose of such a scale is twofold. For one, I can rank an anime against others I've seen and attribute a certain numeric value to it. For another, I can use that number to compare my thoughts on a series to others who have rated it. So when you ask me my thoughts on Code Geass, my natural response is to say it's a 7 out of 10, as there's an almost inherent universality implicit within numbers. After all, a 7 is a 7 is a 7, right? Unfortunately, this is not the case. Although numbers themselves are universal, for example, the existence of 7 bodies is equally as objective to me as it is to you, the value we ascribe to those numbers differs from person to person. What I mean by this is when we adopt a 10-point number scale, we assume that any anime can be placed on one of 10 levels of quality. More importantly, we assign each of these levels of quality a certain degree of goodness. A 10 is that which perfectly meets my ideal of goodness, while a 1 is that which completely fails to meet it. The numbers in between, then, are simply the varying degrees of goodness that an anime strives to meet. For instance, a 5 would be half the amount of goodness as a 10, a 4 less than that, and so on. This provides the basis of our evaluation. While this is useful for the purposes of ranking our own anime, since all anime we watch will be compared to our own ideals of goodness, our individual scales lack universality because the value we ascribe to each level differs from person to person. This follows from the fact that goodness, as a value, is subjective. It only exists within the mind of the subject thinking it. As a result, goodness is developed by the individual who applies it. What I take to be good is the result of my particular experiences with the things I think are good. This experience is unique to me, and as a result, so too is my ideal of goodness. Because the ideal of goodness we ascribe to each level of quality is unique to the individual, we cannot assume that others value a certain level the same as we do. This is why a 7 to me is good, but a 7 to you is bad. Having said that, there is a way around this problem. All that is necessary to communicate one's thoughts on an anime to another is reference to something common. When it comes to evaluation, the one thing common across all individuals is the consensus, that is, the average of each subject's score on an anime. This average is indexed by sites such as Analyst or Mal, and it serves as an indication of what the average anime fan thinks of a series. The way it solves the problem of how to communicate your thoughts on a series is as follows. Assuming that both subjects know the consensus of an anime, which, as we've said, is readily available, they can assert their own individual evaluation with respect to the consensus. So you can either say the consensus is higher than your evaluation or lower. More commonly, this takes the form of asserting that an anime is overrated or underrated. My solution, then, is to abandon the 10-point scale in favor of an overrated/underrated model. While this alone will not communicate your every thought, it will provide a sufficient entry point to have a conversation, something that is unavailable to the 10-point system. I hope this makes sense to y'all, and if not, feel free to prod at me more in the comments. But until next time, don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and a special thanks to my patrons J Chip and Dark Josh. But for now, peace and love, baby.